Has it started? Yes, I think it has started. Yep. Um, hello and greetings to our viewers. Today we have an extremely special guest who I really look up to, as I also do want to get into entrepreneurship and I want to learn a lot about entrepreneurship, legal tech, and the future of legal tech, and as well as dispute resolution. And Mr. Sachin Malhan is someone who I really look up to. He is a serial entrepreneur. He has founded a number of organizations from Agami to HumLab India, Ashoka Changemakers, Inclusive Planet, Rainmaker, Law School Tutorials, and he has had an incredible journey, and we're so glad that you can join us, Mr. Sachin.
My pleasure. So looking forward to this. I'm a fan of what you all are doing as well. So it works both ways.
Thank you so much, Sachin, sir. We really appreciate it. Sir, if you could also briefly introduce yourself and talk about your law school career, because you went to National Law School, and how did you find it there? How was your experience in law school? Your favorite subjects? What you didn't like about law school?
Yeah. Well, it was quite a long time back, so it does feel a little bit dated. But yeah, 97. I went. I think the best way to look at it is I went into law school pre-internet. And there was such a time pre-internet. I went into law school pre-internet, and the internet came in the middle, and it was really profound because to go from pre-internet where you are looking at those AIRs and the SECs and the books and the fat, kind of worm-eaten books and the feeling of smell of the library, to suddenly, there's Westlaw, in our third year or fourth year, but we had one license or something like that, and then, we started going down to the computer lab and using that, and then some of us got personal computers to do projects and things. So it was such a incredibly enlightening time to go from that pre-internet, pre-computers to post-internet, post-computers, and to be a part of a generation that was trying to make sense of it and seeing the good and the bad of both. So it was really, and that of course massively impacted, of course, the work that I did as well, right? Because when we started law school tutorials in 99, which is, people would know it as LST. LST is now owned by Career Launcher. So there was most people who know it as CLLST. But when we started LST in 99, we created a website and we decided to use ICQ chat software to do counseling with people who want to get on chat, and trying all these cool things. And it was really great because at that time these tools were really useful. They were not overwhelmed by all kinds of random people saying stuff, and all people were really authentic. So it was, I really got to see the impact of technology on everything, on life as a student, on life as a law student, on life as an entrepreneur. Everything I got to see, and it really had a huge. That was one big thing, the pre-technology. But besides that, I think leaving home, going to Bangalore, outskirts of Bangalore. Um, Beautiful experience, wilderness. Sometimes we ask ourselves, what the hell are we doing here? What is this place? But sense of idealism, spending 5 years with people from all across the country, just a really enriching experience. And I think if you ask me about subjects, um, you know, I think I remember that very distinctly. I remember the subjects that really captivated me very distinctly. Funnily, tort law right up front. I always it always captivated me. I don't know. It was, I guess, first principles based, and the idea of the reasonable, this basic concept of reasonableness, which I think you realize is such a deep and integral part of the law. And then criminal law. I found it incredibly fascinating. Constitutional law, and then sometimes you get really, really great teachers, right? Like I remember Professor Arun Kumar Thiruvengadam, who's going back to NLS now as a faculty member, teaching teaching us administrative law, and I wouldn't think that would be an interesting subject, but that's the magical part of a good teacher, how they can really bring something to light. So um, great experience, 5 years, learning how to think really, learning how to analyze things, understanding, seeing the principles in something as powerful as the Constitution of India and really being influenced by that. Um, and I think most of all, spending time with such a diverse group of people, because you rarely go to college with such a mix of arts, science, commerce, and that itself is really powerful. To go to have classmates who bring very different minds to this. I think uh, a lot more could have been done in terms of diversity and inclusion, but still, even from our backgrounds in coming from cities, that experience of 5 years with people from all across the country was a hugely enriching experience. So yeah, good memories, good being a part of this transitional generation and graduating in 2002, and suddenly it's a different world.
Yes, I mean, I cannot imagine now, going through law school without the internet. It's
Yeah.
even surprising to think about the times in which, like, people studied without the internet. It's
But you
quite
know
fascinating.
how powerful it is. I think that something has been lost also, Shreyas. Like the patience to
Mhm.
read and open a book and
For sure.
look through it, rather than skipping and finding some part of the judgment, the ability to read the whole judgment, be with paper and the smell of the library and the slowness of people sitting there and reading. A lot of things that I feel they make the mind, we must be careful not to lose them. Yeah.
True. Yes, sir. I couldn't agree more. I think focus is so important that it's become an asset in this time. And
Absolutely.
I, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of glad that you mentioned the 90s internet wave and how it helped you make your career choices to be an entrepreneur, to look at, you understood the power of technology. So I think that brings me to my second question. So how did you motivate, I mean, how did you decide to make this decision to get into this world of startups and entrepreneurship? Because you did it back in 2002. So right now, entrepreneurship is the hype, right? It's the cool thing to do. But I believe back in 2002, we weren't there yet as the society. I may be wrong, but I believe entrepreneurship was not as glamorized as it was in 2002. And you were placed in Amarchand, which was the dream job, I believe, right? And you had secured that. I mean, that was every law student's dream. So what motivated you, or what empowered you to leave law behind and get into this world of entrepreneurship and innovation when it wasn't as glamorized as much?
You know, so first we started law school tutorials 99, September 99. So actually we, became an entrepreneur in September 99. But I think that's a really good question. It is absolutely true that in the late 90s and early 2000s, while there was some grudging curiosity kind of thing, like, oh, what are you doing, this is interesting, we were still, I don't think entrepreneurship was well understood, and it was definitely not celebrated, that's for sure. And even I don't blame my parents. They were also extremely concerned, come from a middle class background, and like, who are you, and why are you taking such a big risk? Why not just stay in the practice of the law and all of that? Just 1 second, Shreyas, 1 second, sorry. Sorry. We have a 5-year-old who wants to
No
be a
worries.
part of the conversation.
It's
um,
no worries.
yeah, so I think I don't blame parents. In fact, I think they were, given their context, they were incredibly understanding, because not just was I leaving the practice of the law, I was leaving it for running a tutorial. And in India, we stigmatize the coaching industry, right? I mean, for me and my co-founders, we were creating something amazing, and like a great program, a great course. We teach the students. We didn't feel stigmatized. We didn't feel like we were doing some something not great. We were very proud of what we were doing, but that double combination of starting something and it is a tutorial, I think there's always pushback. There's always societal pushback. What are you doing? You're a lawyer graduating from a top law school. You got so much ahead of you. But the funny part, the intrinsic joy of doing the entrepreneurial work, of making something, nothing, that beats that feeling of the joy of creating something from scratch, something that is yours. Yeah, so I can never forget that. And I think that in 99, once I started experiencing that, when we made our materials and our tutorial materials on our website and started teaching students, and students started getting through the colleges, and then we saw more colleges come up, and then traveling around the country, speaking to parents, and many people who are lawyers today, even young partners, were students who were sitting in a classroom, and I was presenting to them, in their cities about law and studying law, and even now we laugh about how I convinced their parents. So the thing is that I think by the time I was at Amarchand and I took the decision not to continue after 1 year, I had already tasted so much of that, and I knew that was my nature. I knew that's who I am. So a little bit that helped me fight that fear of leaving the practice of the law, leaving Amarchand, and just believe that where my heart is and where I really enjoy it, I'll be fine. And I've always been also another person who's doesn't have a very clear script of his future. Like, I have no script of my future. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I have no idea what that even looks like. All I know is right now what feels right, and it felt right at that time.
Yes, sir. I mean, I understand. I've read a lot about how entrepreneurs kind of know. They always tell you that if you know that it's your goal, and if it's something that it's your purpose, you will know. And I believe Steve Jobs also said that in his very famous speech, that it's like the love of your life. If you know it is, you would know it in the moment. So it's yes, I'm quite glad that you were lucky to kind of recognize your passion at a very young age. I feel like most of us aren't lucky enough to kind of get that passion at a very young age. So what would you suggest someone who's kind of lost, who feels that they don't know their purpose yet? How would you suggest someone to find it?
Yeah, Shreyas, let me present a couple of ways to look at it. One way to look at it is, you have been doing things out of compulsion or inertia for so long that it's not that you've lost passion, you've lost the practice of curiosity and exploring things. So basically, the kind of going by formula has kind of deadened some parts of you. Because if you look at a child is incredibly entrepreneurial. A child is incredibly curious. Oh, ये क्या है? चलो आधा घंटा बिता रहे हैं उसको बनाने में, explore करने में. When does this ability to be excited by life and ideas start to get affected? So it's not about some people are wired. Yes, some people are more wired than others. But I think in a lot of cases, we a little bit smash it out of our system, the ability to find wonder, creativity, excitement. So I think my lesson to people is, if you think you're waiting for that great idea to come to you, that's not the way to look at it. Instead, can you surround yourself with interesting people? Can you expose yourself to interesting, curiosity triggering, wonder triggering activities? And it's like building a muscle back again. And I love in the East how, there's a great documentary. I've sometimes mentioned it in previous conversations. It's called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's on Netflix, I think. And Jiro Dreams of Sushi is about the world's greatest sushi chef. And the East comes at it from a very different mindset than the West, right? Because in the West they always talk about doing what you love, and the East is always emphasizing loving what you do. And this is really wise, because what the East is saying is inculcate the behavior of enjoyment, excitement, curiosity, play. Inculcate that vis-a-vis anything, and ultimately one little beautiful virtuous cycle starts. As opposed to, I am sad because I have not found what I love. And in Zero Dreams of Sushi, is great. There's a one moment where one of his assistant chefs is sitting outside the door of the restaurant, looking stunned, and the director asks him, "Why are you stunned?" And he says, "I've been making sushi rice for 10 years, only rice, huh? Sushi rice for 10 years, and today I asked Jiro, how is it? Jiro said, sushi rice is okay." I mean, finally, after 10 years, Jiro said sushi rice is okay. It is basically a sign of approval. And the point is that sometimes when you even do the same thing, but with great application, it's not that you have to stay with that one thing, but that building that muscle of curiosity, wonder, excitement, it shows you different pathways in life. As opposed to wait kar rahe hain, dhoond rahe hain for that which you love, and that thing doesn't happen. So, very simple answer: go jump into the places where people are excited, where ideas exist, where excitement is in the air, and see where you flow. See what old memories get triggered inside you. The child in you comes out, and then you'll start to see more possibilities. But definitely acting from fear, the cycle of fear and reaction. Fear as in, my life is ruined, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck. Reaction as in, this is horrible, I need to leave it. That fear and reaction cycle, I've never seen that really help.
True, sir, true. I've seen, I mean, I myself have been conditioned by this cycle. I think
it's a very powerful cycle. Yes, I mean, it's a cycle that's killing young people by the millions.
Yeah.
Like the education cycle. Oh my God. I mean, I'm trying to bring up a 5-year-old now, and I don't remember anything of the biology I studied, the chemistry I studied. There is no wonder any way associated with anything of that. And then I start to think to myself, I say, wow, how lucky I am that I sort of kind of started enjoying, and if I look at it truthfully, what really got me is I really love website design. I actually loved making our first lawentrance.com website on Dreamweaver. Used to be a website creation app that used to be there. And I learned Dreamweaver and I loved it. I loved the agency. Like, wow, if I can actually make this site, I can upload it with FTP and whoa, the site is up to the world. That feeling in life of being able to make something and immediately send it to the world. So slowly, wonder and creativity crept into me by doing those things. So if you say such, does that mean you're really a website designer? No, but you see, I used a hook. I used a hook, and that hook. So can you use another creative person as a hook? Can you use the community as a hook? Can you use an environment as a hook to jumpstart yourself from being dead? Is really the question.
Yeah, true. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yes, so I think this brings us to another question, which is kind of a business-related question. So we know that most startups fail, and I think that you have started 6 successful startups, and which is quite remarkable because people find trouble, successfully establishing one startup. So, what were the challenges that you faced while starting startups? Because I hear that starting a startup is also not as fun and games, and it's quite a difficult and challenging experience. So, what are some challenges that you faced? Maybe it's with funding, marketing, or other business aspects, and how did you deal with them?
So, just first things first, I have seen my fair share of failure. So, sometimes when you look at my bio, in some places, I actually define saying, this didn't work out or that didn't work out. Because I am very suspicious of this photoshopping kind of thing of, I'm a rock star, I've only succeeded in my life. Not
Mhm.
true. Let me tell you, LST, yes, law school tutorial, yes, succeeded. After that, Rainmaker, half succeeded, half failed. The part that was that contributed to the creation of Vahura definitely, succeeded, mostly thanks to Ritvik Lukos, the current CEO, my co-founder then of Rainmaker, amazing guy. Uh, there was other parts dealing with training that didn't work out. Inclusive Planet succeeded at the policy change but failed as a platform because we couldn't raise money for it. It was focused on the visually impaired community. Ashoka Changemakers is part of the Ashoka global program, so I can't really claim success or failure. Agami, it's too early to say, even though I think we have done many things right in these first 4 years. So the point I'm trying to make to you, I have seen my share of failure. So when you start, as someone who loves entrepreneurship and making things, I know I'm going to fail. I know people are going to say, "What's wrong with you? You lost us your money, lost us the money." I know that it's very hard. It doesn't make it easier. Sometimes, even with say Inclusive Planet, the platform part didn't work out. There are a few people, who felt that we should have done better, and they're absolutely right. We should have done better, and we didn't. And fortunately, I managed to rebuild my relationship with many of those people. But here's the thing: is success and failure are going to happen. So any entrepreneur who carries this sort of cocksure attitude that I'm everything I touch turns to gold, then that is becomes their weakness, right? Like, because entrepreneurship is fundamentally a creative activity, and that creative activity is going to sometimes succeed, sometimes going to fail. Nevertheless, there are things that I have learned about how to ensure that in the long term, the chances of success can be increased.
Mhm.
One thing I have learned is that things take time to build, and people tend to rush them and kind of think that over 2 years, 3 years, it'll happen. Things
Mhm.
take time to build. I mean, I look at Book My Show and all, everybody is falling all over Book My Show. It's been around for 23 years, or Make My Trip, and, like so long. And yes, there are examples of companies that suddenly are worth $10 billion. But leave aside that world of all or nothing world that, that you raise the funds and all or nothing, right? Because they're even making huge losses even now, right? Like Byju's and all, right?
Yes.
Um, if you want to build, in general, if you want to build something, it takes time, and there's a beauty of time. Over
Mhm.
a period of time, it's called the compounding principle, right? Not just
Yes.
compounding money, but
Mhm.
compounding your brand,
Yes.
compounding your network, compounding your knowledge, right? So respect time. Second is, don't waste time in the beginning planning and all that too much. Start as soon as you can to interact with the community who you want to be the consumer of your service or product or whatever. The sooner you have something to interact with the community about, sooner you'll get feedback and get a clear sense कि सच्ची need क्या है, सच्ची
Mhm.
opportunity क्या है. Rather
Mhm.
than plan कर रहे हैं, बना रहे हैं, 2 साल बीत गए, फिर अब ready हो गया, अब तब पता लगा कि nobody wants to use it or nobody's using your product. So the sooner you can get it out, get something out there and get experience and input, the better. The third thing is be prepared to bootstrap. I think in India, everyone expects that whatever you build for a period of time, you'll bootstrap it. You'll take it to the point where people can't ignore it. It's no longer just an idea. People can't ignore it. That's the other thing. The fourth is, if you're working with co-founders, build excellent relationships. Invest in communications.
Yes.
You think हम तो दोस्त हैं, कुछ हो नहीं सकता. बिल्कुल गलत. You know, you will realize that communicate your relationships will come under fire, and you need to have that ability to dialogue, to
Yes.
speak. Helps to have a respected, slightly older person in your group who can help to facilitate, give perspective, rather than everything is between all of you and you are always having every fight together.
Mhm. Yes.
That's another thing I'll say. Um, Beyond that, I will say that as long as you persist, as long as you take the long view, as long as your communications are high, if you keep looking, there are countless opportunities in India to entrepreneur today. Countless. So staying in it, पहले नहीं दिखेगा. थोड़ा if you stay in it, 6 महीने, 10 महीने, 12 महीने, 1.5 years, then you'll see, I see the real opportunity. Sometimes they joke about it, they call it the second pivot. When the second time you change slightly what you are doing. That's sometimes the most informed, enlightened pivot.
Yes.
Okay, this is the opportunity. Of course, if your second pivot is happening after 5 years of doing whatever, then you're in trouble. Yeah. But if you can get to whatever audience quickly, learn, then change direction once, then change direction again, then you're okay if it happens within 1.5 years. Yeah. These are some principles that are there.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. I think that does give us an insight, because we just keep on thinking that we'll just get this magical idea without, I think, and the fact that you mentioned that you should actually go and interact with the consumers first is quite enlightening, because we just try to figure out what people want. And I think that kind of is not what we do.
And asking people through a question survey and all doesn't give you the same feedback that actually seeing someone use your product or directly interacting with them and observing differently without asking them questions. If I ask you, would you like to have a golden hammer? And you say, yes, of course it would. It's wonderful. I'd love to have a golden hammer. But when there's a golden hammer, you don't use it.
Yeah.
People give different answers from their actual needs.
Yeah, true. So now that you mentioned, finding out the needs of the target group that you're trying to open a business for. So what do you think are the problems that you see in the legal industry? So I feel like this legal industry is quite resistant to technology. If you see fintech, the way it has embraced technology, I feel like legal tech is still a little behind. So what do you think is the problems with the legal industry in the moment in India?
Yeah. So, look, question of who you see as your clients, right? If you're looking at only solving the needs of practitioners, then you are getting locked into this problem of needing the practitioners to want to try new things, whether it's a law firm or whatever. That audience is obviously very limited. They may be locked into ways of doing things and stuff. But if you see it as every citizen of India, you see it as every small and medium-sized business in India, and that is your legal market, then if you can solve their pain about something, when they do a property transaction, when they need some legal advice, when they need a document done, when they need a dispute resolved. I mean, are you telling me that there's no pain to be solved? There's so much pain to be solved.
Yeah.
So maybe the way to look at it is to go where people have pain and need it to be solved. And not get stuck in this conversation. Are the legal practitioners ready to change? If you really want to focus on the legal practitioners, why don't you go with the practitioners who are the young ones, who are anyway with a different mindset? Build something with them over 5 to 10 years. Again, saying, oh, I was trying to convince Joshi ji to use this, पर उनके firm में कोई use नहीं कर रहा है. Adoption बहुत slow है. उन्होंने कहा था उन्होंने 50 licenses लिए मेरे software के, पर कोई use नहीं कर रहा है. Something circuitous and dead about that conversation. Why are you going there? It's a bit like saying I've been trying to convince in 2002 my mother to buy on e-commerce using credit card.
Sure.
Who was buying at that time? The experimenters. The ones who said, okay, and even the companies adopted to say, okay, we'll do cash on delivery. You can place it order and if you feel trust. But always the markets are built by the people on the edge. Now you're going and fighting a battle trying to convince the middle. So how to look at it, Shreyas? Where is the real market? Where are the real users? Not falling into these traps. Practitioners are reluctant to change. Yes, they're reluctant to change. They're entitled to be reluctant to change. Why should they? But does that mean they are the only people willing to try new things? So, I refuse to believe in a country of 1.3 billion people, there is no legal services market.
Yes, sir.
I
I think that.
I can see pain left, right, and center.
Mm.
Of course, some of it is dependent on the system, so you can't solve all of it. But that's the creative mind of the entrepreneur. They try to see what can be done. I mean, look at the examples like Legality, ProVakil, Sama, so many startups doing Credgenics, LegitQuest, Legistify, then Gautami Riker's venture in Goa. I mean, so many by now. Legal Cart, Loreto, there are so many creative, and there will be 10 times more in the next decade. 10 times. So question is, where are you looking?
True, yes, sir. I think this brings a new perspective because we need to, I believe we need to target the right consumers rather than focusing on.
Exactly. Target the right consumers. Exactly. And not get into traps like these law firms. I was trying to speak to this top law firm, that top law firm. They're not taking my product. Maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't. Maybe it's too small a market. But maybe there are other people out there who will build with you, who are willing to work with you. And maybe we are underestimating the small and medium-sized business or enterprise legal business or consumer market. I mean, Ankur Singla built his company in 2008. The consumer complaints, Akosha, 2008. I mean, you talk about someone building an online consumer complaints company in 2008. Yes, they pivoted into other areas, good or bad, they did it. But shares for the committed entrepreneur, they will find a place.
Yes, sir.
And if they don't find a place, no problem. Mark it down as a wonderful learning failure and try something new, no problem.
Yes, sir. I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, to be able to figure out.
I said something. I said, whenever I see where the world sees sometimes a failed entrepreneur, I see someone who has learned incredible things for their future growth. That's what I see. So I feel like this shift is happening. People are no longer seeing someone who tried entrepreneurship, didn't work, as being like, you're good for nothing,
Yes, sir. I think failures are the best lessons. So I think this brings me to my next question. So let's say that, as lawyers or as law students, we find certain, we do research, we find certain areas that we're interested in. So this is particularly about legal tech. So we have no tech background whatsoever. So I don't know how to code. I don't know how app development works, web development works, and I have no one around me in my vicinity who knows how to do that. So how can someone with no tech industry, of course, they can partner with someone who has tech experience, but then again, finding an ideal partner is just as difficult. So how can someone with no tech experience, in like a law student, start a legal tech enterprise? Can they learn and slowly practice what they've learned, or should they focus on just finding a tech person who will do their work for them?
So I think that the literacy that you need, let's call it technology entrepreneurship literacy, that much you need to have, which is you understand the patterns, the trends, that AI can allow me to summarize a document. Just 1 second. So let me repeat that, which is, I think that technology literacy is essential now for everybody. Hey, why can't I run a legal search tool that is not just about keyword search, but that is searching for patterns inside data? Hey, why can't I? Hey, here's a tool to summarize any legal document. How could this be used? So there's no escaping that you must be technology proficient. But that doesn't mean you have to, I don't know how to code and all. I mean, you don't have to know how to code. You must be technology proficient because technology has become like a basic literacy. So technology proficiency is critical because only then you start to see the dots and you can connect the dots. But does that mean that you need to, once you see an opportunity, you need to then, you need to be an engineer? You don't need to be an engineer. So my point is bring yourself proficiency, two things, proficiency and network access. And this is network access is a problem because you see in the US and other places, the same universities that have law schools have engineering schools and data schools. And हमारे यहाँ पे तो isolated बिल्कुल. So we don't know anyone from engineering or we don't know enough people from engineering. तो ये problem को solve करना पड़ेगा. In fact, Agami itself is working on trying to see how this problem can be solved. I mean, many people will have to play a role, but Agami is taking that quite seriously. How to kind of bring together many more young innovators, technology, law together, so that people can say, "Hey, I want to work on this. You want to work on this with me?" But until that happens, Shreyas, proficiency and network access. Proficiency will show you the dots, how to connect the dots. I need this, I can do that. There's an opportunity here. And then network access will get you the access to whether it's a fellow engineering student, or a young developer. And that's the answer. So now you might say, but Sachin, who is providing this technology proficiency? Unfortunately, at least for the next 1.5 years, there has to be a self-driven thing. You have to understand. You have to understand what natural language processing actually means. You have to understand what machine learning actually means. You have to understand how putting up government data on systems is going to allow for new solutions to come. When you look at a startup like, say, a ProVakil or a Sama or a LegitQuest or a Legistify, you must understand what is it they're doing. When you look at legality and you realize they're using e-signing, including Aadhaar e-signing or whatever for online contracts and stuff, you must know कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं, कैसे कर रहे हैं. Now, are you telling me you need to know Java and Python and all for that? Not at all. But you need to have curiosity. You need to be able to learn. Then you start to see, you know what? Maybe I can build a model by which these small size disputes of this kind can be fully automatically negotiated going forward. Tuck, 2 steps here, there, you can negotiate and close it out. And let me try. In the airline industry, I'm going to try if I can sell the solution. Opportunities will come to you only when you see the connections. Yeah. So this is the world we're in. A world where technology is basic literacy, but it doesn't mean you need to know how to code.
Yes, sir. I think, so I think, and after that, after you connect the dots, maybe you can network and find someone who would help you bring your
because everyone, I mean, even coding is getting fully automated. Yeah, I mean, there are solutions that do basically no code solutions, limited code solutions. So after some time, the AI will be able to do its own coding. I mean, you think the AI? There are already AI solutions that can develop software. Software, they can develop software. So my question is, how much will you chase the tail? No, focus on deep literacy, broad literacy, but literacy that let me clarify. Literacy, knowing what a thing is, how it works, how it connects to other things, and broad, being able to draw connections between different things.
Yes, I think that's a great idea, because it's also kind of gives me a little hope, because I am into legal tech and I was kind of getting intimidated by, I need to learn Python, I need to learn Java, and now that you've told me that understanding everything from the ground level will help me. So I think that's what
figure out the problems that need to be solved. Find the problems that are worth solving. That is a big challenge itself. Finding the problems worth solving. Has someone solved affordable legal services problem in India? No. Why? Why can't we offer 100 rupee legal advice which is dependable and high quality? Why? Technology driven. Has someone completely solved the community mediation problem in India? No. Has somebody completely solved small business digital contracts? I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things. Um, I really feel like look for the problems that need to be solved.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that that is a wonderful advice that you have given to us that we can use. Sir, so you have mentioned briefly about AI, and we've actually seen AI in action and how AI has kind of bring and help technology penetrate the legal market. I think something else, some other tech revolution is that's also going on is blockchain. So I was wondering, what are your thoughts on blockchain, and do you think it will really, how will it impact the legal industry in the future? And are there any opportunities for entrepreneurs to capitalize on blockchain and legal tech?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I haven't looked. I've looked more closely at AI, ML than blockchain, but any system is such a secure system like blockchain, and what it means for smart contracts, the idea that every transaction can be, on the ledger, and you can never question the transaction that it something happened because it's on the ledger, and what that means for secure transactions. And then for smart contracts, if some A happens, B should happen. If B happens, C should happen. D happens, make a payment to Mr. Nagamoto. So the point is that the application in smart contracts, the application in documenting transactions like property transactions, um, uh, and even in our judicial system functioning, blockchain and judicial system functioning, that this order has been dealt with, and now it's we can move on to the next step of this order, and all of so it'll introduce trust, interoperability, transparency at such an epic scale that the possibilities are huge. But I think smart contracts is one area where immediately I see huge opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think yeah, I think blockchain does truly bring in a lot of opportunities. So I had my next question is, I think you also briefly mentioned the importance of having a good team. So how do you find out as your startup ideal startup team? Because there is a limited amount of time that in which you need to find a team, because you have an idea, you want to execute it, so you need to be a little fast. But then again, I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs and saying that if you don't have a team, if you don't connect with your team, and if there's not a good team, then most likely your venture will not be successful. So how do you find your ideal startup team? Like, what are the things you look at? Do you have a checklist? How do you go about it to make sure that your team is a solid team?
See, you're talking about one of the oldest problems, able to find people, and that is not easy, right? It's something that I think we battle with through life. But Shreyas, my point is this, which is it starts with you. I think the thing which you can control is how you and your co-founders, you show up, the way you model, how much you trust people in reaching their best, highest potential. Because if you start off, you will always see 20 problems with a team member. But if you really trust and believe in their strong abilities, and you lead by example, that's a better bet than searching for the star team member. So sometimes people put someone idea, like people tell you, oh, you must work with fantastic people, and that puts a thought into your head saying, do I have fantastic people? And maybe you don't, maybe you do, but you have people who could be fantastic.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And having that mindset is a very, very powerful thing. That you could have people who could be fantastic, and you have to believe in people. But that being said, when you're hiring, looking for people who have the experience taking initiative, who don't always wait for someone to tell them what to do, can run with something on their own, who have interests in life, deep interests, very good indicator, passions, curiosities, People who are excited, they may be excited quietly. वो ज़्यादा नहीं बोलते हैं, but you can see in their eyes they're excited, or they're excited visibly, but they're excited. Sense of playfulness. People who fundamentally there's a sense of trust. Their mindset is such that you can trust them. Again, in all of this, note how I'm not even talking about critical thinking, must be from IIT, National Law University, this, that, nothing. I don't believe in that. I believe that people can be fantastic if they have these values that we're talking about. And then if you invest in them, magical things can happen. I think people who particularly who've taken on adversity early on in their lives, they come with the least entitlement and they're willing to learn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at your team members. So one thing now I've asked you your perspective as an entrepreneur. So I would now like to ask you a slightly different question. So putting yourself in the other side as an investor. So what, like, if you were to invest in startups, so what are the things you look at in an ideal startup? Because in the beginning phases, of course, all startups are risky. So how do you filter out the risk, and what are the main things that you look at while investing in a startup?
The number one is the person/team, and to be very specific, their sense of curiosity, enthusiasm about what they do. You know, there's a big difference between someone pitching you something and someone so into it that and is excited by it that they have developed a very strong learning relationship with what they're trying to do. So one is definitely that nature of the person, problem solver, curious, self-reflective. You know, you're looking at that ability, right? Energy. I think that is the number one thing. But also, when you look at how clearly have they defined the problem, like have they selected a powerful enough problem? Not that they have to stick with that problem, but they have taken the effort to come to a problem worth solving. You know, it's a problem worth solving, and I think I definitely like to look at it's a problem worth solving. It's a large enough market. It's an important enough problem worth solving. Large enough affected user base or affected citizen base. They have framed it clearly. There's clarity in their minds about why they think the problem exists. And I think the third is how quickly they have learned. Or are these going to sound like the people working on the magic fix? We're still working on the magic fix and its answer is just around the corner. No, how quickly have they learned and changed and refined? I think those are the things that I'm looking for as an investor.
Yes, sir. And I think while you mentioned things that you're looking for, I think people who want to be entrepreneurs will also kind of now also have a thing of things that they should aspire to be, you know, so that they will get their investors' approval.
Let your passion come through. You know, let your genuine engagement with the problem you're trying to solve come through. You know, and I think that's so important. If the person can't see that, then there you got a big issue. You know, you've got a big issue. Forget about the person. You've got a big issue. You know, why should the universe help to solve a problem that you yourself are not convinced you want to solve? You know?
Yes, sir. I think this reminds me of Jeff Bezos. So he said that in the beginning, I think that people invested in him because even his parents, he went and told him that there's a 7% chance that it's gonna fail. Amazon's gonna fail. So I think this is a perfect link to what Bezos said as well, that you know they invested in him, not on Amazon in the beginning, which is quite interesting. So yes, I think you just need some facts. Sir, so I think a final question. I think you have already mentioned a lot of this throughout the interview, though. So what are some key problems and areas that you would suggest to people who want to start a legal startup or are kind of lost about where they would look at? So what are some few preliminary research that they could do and they could start, so they would have a head start in finding their idea?
I think the affordable legal services space. India's 1.3 billion people. Everybody is not either the ultra rich or the ultra poor. I mean, there are various large chunks of people. How are they accessing legal services? Are there opportunities and gaps there in terms of technology aided legal services? ODR, so many different types of dispute categories. Each requires different kind of scientific approach, different kind of methodology. Could that be done? Look at the new systems of information, property titled information, you know, government contract information, like new systems of information that are going live, and how can they be connected to solutions? How could they make solutions much easier? Then, if you look at other areas like, say, small business support, I really believe small and medium-sized businesses, the kind of opportunity, kind of solutions they need, that are solutions for automation, solutions for business intelligence. What is it that, what solutions could they be looking at? I think these are some examples of areas where we have huge slices of opportunity that could be, and also these very large e-commerce ecosystems that are being built. What kind of solutions, legal law and justice solutions, are required inside them? You know, for instance, if you're talking about a really large small loan ecosystem, again, coming to the ODR example, what is the ODR solution that fits to resolve if there's a loan dispute? You know, so I really feel that there are so many of these areas, and looking at it a little more carefully and trying to see where the gaps are opening up will show you the innovation opportunities. Yeah. There are some people doing very creative work on litigation financing. That's another area where there could be opportunities. Litigation insurance, litigation financing, because it costs 1,000 rupees a day per litigant to manage a legal matter. Can Indians pay 1,000 rupees a day? You know. Mm. So a lot of pain, a lot of gaps, but no black and white answers. You know. Mm.
Yes, yes. I think we just look at these ideas with an open mind and find out the one that we're passionate about. So.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. I think this brings an end to our interview, and there is just so much learning that we've had in this hour. I think future entrepreneurs, people who are into legal tech, will learn so much, and we'd like to thank you so much for your valuable time. We at YCM truly appreciate you joining us for this.
My pleasure. If this can help, you know, we have a program called No Change Maker Left Behind. A group of us, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, make ourselves available for 40 minutes every Thursday for anybody who has an idea, who wants to advance their idea. 110 young people whose ideas have already gone through NCLB, No Change Maker Left Behind. So if you know others, please look for No Change Maker Left Behind online and sign up for that. We need hundreds and thousands of more innovators and entrepreneurs. Only they are going to solve the problems that we face today. The gap that we have in law and justice services is too vast. And if there's no magic bullet, no silver bullet of the government that's going to fix that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will also be adding the link to the thing in the description so that you can see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll just stop the recording.